Hello, and I'm just going to go over why being positive matters. So we're just going to kind of go over um, the benefits of using positive phrasing, especially in our classroom, over negative phrasing, I guess is a way to say it. So we'll kind of get into that on the next slide. But I just encourage you guys to watch this, and hopefully we'll be able to use this more in our classroom. So what's the big deal? So like, why is it important for us to use positive phrasing instead of just saying don't? So one of the things that we want to look at is when we're using a positive language, we're also letting our students know what the expected behavior is. So one of the examples, don't run. So what we're basically, if we just say, hey, don't run, we're not giving them clear expectations of what we want them to do. So that way we can say, instead of don't run, we can say, please walk would be an example. And then we're positively stating it. We're not saying don't or no, but we're giving them clear expectations of what we want. And so we kind of go down the list. We have don't jump, don't yell, don't hit, don't ride your bike so fast. And so these are all things we could see in the classroom. Well, not the bike riding, but just the hitting, yelling, jumping. Don't take don't take the toy away from someone else. Don't slam the doors. That could be anything with materials. Don't slam your binder down. And if you look at the positive side, we're really giving them clear expectations of what we want them to do. So instead of don't hit, please be gentle, we could say, hey, we need to use our nice hands instead of don't hit. Instead of just saying no, I think sometimes we just kind of get into that habit of, hey, no, stop. But we're not telling them what to stop, and we're just saying no. So I guess an example is if a kid's just taking their goldfish like we have it reading and they're smashing it into the ground. Instead of saying, hey, no, stop, we can say, no, remember, we need to have gentle hands with our goldfish. Our goldfish belong in our mouth. And then if it's not, then we could say, okay, and list our expectations. If you're not going to be nice with your goldfish, then I'm going to have to take them. And that way they know the clear expectations. Hey, if I'm going to grind my goldfish into the ground, or if I'm not going to eat them, then they're going to get taken away. So I think that will really help our kids, just hearing that positive statement or even hearing that expectation. So instead of just don't hit, we need to use gentle hands. And it reminds us too, just that positive phrasing with our students. It'll help them to just realize what we want to, what we expect from them. And it's what to do versus what not to do. So I think it's really beneficial for them to hear what they can do. And what they need to be doing instead of just always the no. So we just have this video here that kind of goes over just a very brief overview of behavior. So we'll just watch this really quick.
In its most basic form, behavior consists of a need, a behavior used to meet that need, and the need being met as a result of the behavior. Let's look at some examples with everyday behaviors that we use to meet our needs. Let's say my body is too hot. I take my sweater off. Then my body feels better. I'm a young child who is lonely for my mom. I cry, and my mom comes to me. I'm frustrated with a worksheet that is 2 grade levels above where I can perform. I tear the worksheet, and the feeling of frustration goes away along with the worksheet.
So just by looking at that, we probably have seen some of those examples in class. And the thing is, behavior is communication. So what we need to really be looking at in class is what the need is and why they're behaving that way. For some of our students, they're not going to have great verbal skills. And so the easiest way for them to get their need met is going to be giving us some sort of behavior. And so instead of us just reacting negatively to that behavior, saying no, we really need to be looking at that behavior and trying to determine maybe what they're trying to communicate through that. And so like what we've seen here, tear worksheet, is maybe the worksheet too hard? And that kind of further on, we'll kind of get into it of looking and really evaluating, is it too hard? Are they communicating that it's too hard? Or is there something else that they're trying to communicate? And so I think our initial reaction with every behavior, there's going to be somewhere we need to step in right away and that we will need to address if there's a safety concern. But I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing for us to hesitate a little bit and really try to evaluate what happened right before the behavior. Was there a command that we gave them or a task that we gave them that they didn't want to do? So are they communicating that maybe they want a different choice? And so instead of us just immediately reacting with a no or a stop or don't do that, we really need to be looking at maybe what they're trying to communicate and then seeing how we can phrase that in a positive light. So if the worksheet's too hard and they tear it, instead of us just saying stop or don't tear the paper, we can say, hey, remember, if it's too hard or you need a break, we can use our words and ask for a break. And then that way we're really trying to teach them a replacement behavior. And so that's kind of what we're going to go over now. The need, so either meet or prevent the need. And then if the need's met, we're trying to teach a new way for that need to be met. So instead of for them ripping the paper and then the work's gone, eventually we'll get back to the work, but at least at that immediate spot that work's gone. Really what we're going to want to try to do is prevent that behavior. So we're going to try to prevent the paper being ripped, and we're going to teach them a new way to meet the need. Hey, this is really hard. Can I have a break? And so by them using a more appropriate behavior, they're still going to get to the their need being met of having a break, or I don't want to use the words escaping the work, but they will for a little bit be able to delay at least that work. And so if they're having trouble with it, we can take it away more appropriately than ripping the paper. There's a lot of ways that we can look at the behavior in our room that we see. And really we're just trying to teach them more appropriate ways to get the end result instead of hitting, maybe running away, spitting. So a lot of behaviors that we are seeing that aren't necessarily appropriate, they are still trying to communicate something, and it's getting a need met in some way. And so really what we need to be doing as a team is kind of looking for ways that we can teach new and more appropriate behavior for them. This right here is what can we do? A lot of this is going to fall under what I'm going to do as a teacher, but some things that we can really look at is, does it interfere with the learning? Is it harmful to self or others? And does it put students at risk for social challenges? And if no, we can ignore the unwanted behavior and reinforce an alternate behavior that serves similar purpose or need. So immediate example of that, I guess, would be if one of our students is either refusing the work or just they're not doing what we've asked them to do. If they're not interfering with learning of anybody else and they're not harming themselves or others and no one's at risk, then we can ignore them. And then as soon as we do see that appropriate behavior, then we immediately give them the attention. And so the idea behind that is once they learn, hey, when I use this appropriate behavior, I'm getting the attention and I'm getting what I want. Hopefully they'll start using that. But if we ask those questions and we say yes, then really what we need to look at is the predictability, the motivation, and then any appropriate instruction. So and some of the things we've addressed already with some of our students. Do they have a schedule or something like that that they can look at? Some of our students do, and if they don't, then maybe that's something that we definitely need to start looking at is there a way we can help them with transitions throughout their day so they kind of know what's coming? And are the expectations for that student consistent? And I think we've talked about that in the past, but just making sure that as a team that we're consistent on our expectations. And so that's across environments and people. So whether or not we're in the classroom, we're at specials, our expectations need to be the same. And reinforcement and correction procedures need to be as close to the same as possible. So for those students that do have their token boards, we really need to be using those as close to the same and consistently as possible. And so that way the students know that, hey, every time I display this behavior, I'm going to get rewarded. Or if I display this behavior, then I know with all staff, it's not going to fly. Because I think sometimes what happens with inconsistencies is that we'll have some, I would say students can get away with some stuff with some staff, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It might just be we have different expectations for them. And could be something minor, like we let them grab something on their own where some staff may not. But when it comes to behavior, we want to make sure that the students know that if I hit somebody every single time, this is what's going to happen. Or if I use my words and ask politely every single time, I'm going to get this result. So we just want to make sure that we are using those reinforcements consistently. I know for myself, there's been times where one day I'm really good at it, or one group I'm really good at it, and then I kind of forget to use it. And so that's really hard for the student to know, like, well, in this group, I did this and I got my reinforcement. I did the same thing in this group and nothing happened. So even that could be the same with the same teacher, and we're just not very consistent with it. So it's one of those things that make sure that we're consistently reinforcing those expectations, whether or not it's in a different environment, same environment, or with different people. Motivation. For some students, a certain subject may not be very motivating. I do have motivation kind of assessments, preference assessments that we can do. So if we have a student where maybe the token board we're using or whatever reinforcement we're using is no longer really working, just let me know. I might see it too, and then I'll come up to you and we can definitely go through that with them, figure out some of the things that maybe they want to work for. Some of our students have had a token board for a while now, and it might be that maybe we need to go through and look at changing out some of those reinforcements and have something that they'll like and that might reinforce them a little bit better. Because I know after time, you can only have so much of something where eventually you're just like, I don't really want it anymore, or it's not that motivating. So it could just be that we need to look at that for some of our students. And then also, have we done an assessment to identify appropriate academic targets? That's more of what I need to be doing. So if I'm assigning you stuff to work with a student and it's either way above or way below, let me know, and we can definitely look at trying to change that up. Because it could be for some of our students, the task could be either too hard at that time, it's not engaging for them, they need a different format, maybe more visual, more hands-on, or it could just be that it's way too easy and we need to increase it. So that's definitely something that I would be doing. But if you kind of feel that, hey, working with a student, I think this is too easy for them, it's not motivating enough, then just let me know. We could definitely look at changing that and finding something that's going to motivate them to stay on task. And then your words matter. I think sometimes we forget how much our words really do affect our kids. So this does have some examples. Be quiet. So instead of just be quiet, hey, remember we need to use our quiet voice. On some of these, I don't always. I know we've talked about phrasing stuff in questions, and that's one thing we can get into later. But I would always say, instead of asking a question, try to make it more like, remember to use our softer voice instead of can you use a softer voice. My opinion is if we say, hey, can you use a softer voice, then they can say no. Or if we say, hey, you need to use your softer voice, I think it's still being polite enough without offering them a choice where they can just say no, and then you're kind of stuck where you have to figure out, okay, now they said no, what do I say now? And so do I need to separate you? I know that sometimes some of our kids in class can not work great together, where they can, and then something just happens where they need to have some space. We can just say, hey, do you need to use a break from each other? What questions do you have? How are you feeling? Just making sure that we're really being positive towards our students and helping them. Really, our words, even I'd say almost all of our students understand a lot more than what they can verbalize at times. And so just making sure that we're really being careful with our words, and that we're really checking in with our students. How are you feeling? Instead of just saying, oh, you're fine, or stop crying. I'm really just trying to explore maybe why they're crying. Some of our students do have on the back of their binders, how do you feel? What do you want? What do you need? So really just checking in with them. And so just instead of immediately dismissing, like stop crying, really just trying to look and making sure that we're being mindful with our words. So what can you do? One of the things that we're going to try to really start doing is using positive phrases. So we'll try to get no out of our vocabulary, stop, don't, and really just try to be positive with our students, helping them realize what we expect of them. So instead of saying stop doing that, we'll just say, hey, we need to use calm hands, quiet feet. So just finding ways to more appropriately have our expectations come across. You can also ask for help. Quite a few of us have been doing this for a lot of years. And even there's times that those of us who have been doing it for a long time need to ask for help. So we're all on the same team, and just make sure that if we're in a situation where we're starting to get frustrated, we're like, I don't know what to do, don't be afraid to find someone near you and say, hey, can you help me with this? What do I need to do? I would much prefer anyone, regardless of your experience, to ask for help and have us do it together as a team, instead of you trying to do it as on your own, and then get frustrated and have something happen. So there's plenty of us in the classroom. You should always be able to ask for help. If there's a behavior that is starting and you don't know exactly what your next step should be, definitely find someone near you and ask them. And then if someone does ask you and you don't know what to do, then just either come find myself or find someone else to help you guys too. Watch others. There's times that even me as a teacher, I can watch you guys and learn from you. And we all have different experiences. We've all faced different things, seen different things, learned different things. And so just watch each other, learn from each other, see what works with certain kids, and try to emulate that as well, and just try to follow, like, hey, this works really well with this student. I saw that how this person was working with them. I think I'm going to try that too and see if that works as well. And then what can you do? What is being communicated? Just remembering what your words are saying. Am I just saying no or stop? Or am I really being clear about what the expectations are in the classroom? So I'd encourage you to refer back to this. I will also share, I can share the training website, and maybe on one of our meeting days, we can kind of go over a little bit more in depth behavior, expectations, prompt leveling, and all that. And so if you ever have questions, please don't hesitate to come and ask. If you see anything that you aren't quite sure about, I'm always here too to try to answer any of those questions. So we're all learning, and we're all kind of learning together how to help each other. And so I would always encourage you to ask myself or ask somebody else in the classroom any of those questions that you do have. And again, here's the resources. So it's from the Idaho Training Clearinghouse.com. So if you ever do have questions, they do have a paraeducator, paraprofessional section too, where they have information. And again, we will try to explore that as a team. So as always, if you have any questions, please let me know. All right, thank you.